Opportunity for the public to speak to the planning group on any subject matter within our jurisdiction that is not one of the posted agenda action items. So, Victoria, do you have anybody from the public?
Becky Rapp.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Becky Rapp. Tonight, I want to bring to your attention some news out of Sacramento County. The supervisors rejected legal marijuana sales in their unincorporated areas. This is monumental, as Sacramento County is similar in size to San Diego County, and would profit similarly. I think it's important that our county supervisors recognize this, and our community residents encourage our supervisors to vote similarly, as it's still not too late. I appreciated Supervisor Anderson recognizing that the ordinance needs stronger protections, protecting residents, especially children and youth. He brought forward 16 recommendations, which I discussed a couple months ago. And as much as I would like for him to vote against the marijuana ordinance, this compromise with this recommendation is crucial to public health and safety. And I suggest the planning group recommends strengthening it even more. Amy Ronshinson, executive director of the Drug Free America Foundation, said, if there is a dispensary on every corner and people are selling these products, you better believe that your dispensary is going to sell the biggest, baddest, most potent marijuana product there is, because you want your edge on that market. And the Federal Health Agency says on its website, recent research suggests that smoking high potency marijuana every day could increase the chances of developing psychosis by nearly 5 times compared to people who have never used marijuana. Marijuana businesses are clearly not what unincorporated communities need. And the average response time for a crime is 28 minutes. So that's nearly a half hour. Clearly, law enforcement is not properly equipped and understaffed, unfortunately, to handle this influx. So I just encourage you to come and participate at the Board of Supervisors meeting, supporting Anderson's recommendations and encouraging him to strengthen the language protecting minor-oriented facilities and youth-sensitive areas. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Becky. Victoria?
Gordon.
Yeah, I'm Donna, and I am a resident of Spring Valley, specifically St. George Street. And we've been having some issues here with campers, drug activities, just trucks and all that parking right there, right by Smart and Final, you know, that wall right there. So we're seeking to see if we can get a no parking sign, or maybe get red paint. I've picked up a couple needles at my gate. It's hard to back in and out, you know, when they're there. And we're hoping we can. I called the county and they said this is where I should come to get some help in getting that done. So that's what I'm seeking here.
And could you state your name again?
I'm Donna.
Okay, your last name, Donna?
Gordon.
Oh, Gordon. Thank you. Okay, Victoria, do we have anybody else from the public?
I do not see any other hands raised.
All right, so we're going to go to the action items.
Hold on just a second, Tim. Can we get the address on that problem on St. George and what side of the street it's on?
Yeah, I've talked to the manager at the Smart and Final there, and it's on the corner of Sweetwater Road and St. George Street, probably the first like block and a half to 2 blocks going east.
Correct.
Both sides of the street?
No.
I think it's at the commercial trucks are parking on one side, but I'm not sure if there's any homeless that are parking in the evenings I've only been by there during the day in the evenings. So, but I'll talk about it a little more during my chair report. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Okay. So action item number 1, Ken Melton, land use and environmental planner with code compliance, will present on a graffiti removal program that will apply to private properties within the incorporated county. Spring Valley, unfortunately, is one of the CPG areas with the highest amount of graffiti-related code compliance cases. Ken, do you have a presentation?
Yeah, hi, Tim. Yeah, we have a PowerPoint to share.
Okay, I went ahead and I stopped my share, so you can go ahead and jump in. I think I made you a co-host.
Perfect. Okay. And hi, everyone. Hope everyone is having a good evening. My name's Ken Melton. I'm also here with my coworker, Mike Pittman, and he'll be helping me go through this PowerPoint presentation that we prepared. Want to thank everybody. Thank you for having us. We're here to talk about, as Tim said, a graffiti program that we're working on implementing. And the program would apply to private properties in the unincorporated county. And so I just wanted to emphasize that it's not going to apply to incorporated cities. It's not going to have any effect on public property. We do already have the ability to deal with graffiti on public property. And so I thought I'd start and share just some information on that and how you can report graffiti depending on where it is. Please, everyone, feel free to take a screenshot of this. I can also send our presentation to Tim to share with the group. But any graffiti that you want to report, if it's in the right of way, if it's basically on the street or the sidewalk, drainage culverts even, you can report that to the Department of Public Works. Anything in a park, you can report it to Parks and Recreation. And then if you find these types of things in cities, it's a good bet that you can report it to that individual city's department, such as, so anything on the street in the city of San Diego, you can probably report it to City of San Diego Public Works. Also, anything on highways or under highways, underpasses, under highway bridges can be reported to Caltrans. That's District 11. And of course, anything on private property, you can report to us. And if you're not sure, you can call us and we can figure it out. I think I see a hand up. I'm not sure if Laura, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, is it on the Tell Us Now app also?
Yeah, you should be able to report it to us on the Tell Us Now app. I'm not sure about all the other options, but you can report. It would be the same as filing any complaint for code compliance.
Oh, so just.
And you would
a
let us know about the
report?
graffiti.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so moving on, we want to start with some background. What's the land use regulations that apply? What are the land use regulations that apply to graffiti? So we'll talk about that. First, I do want to say graffiti is vandalism, right? It is a violation of penal code. But that's the extent that I'll talk about that, because we don't enforce criminal law. We're not the sheriffs. We enforce land use regulations. And so the land use regulations that apply to graffiti on private property come from the Code of Regulatory Ordinances, section 36.104. And so what this section basically says, it holds property owners responsible for graffiti that's on their property. Any graffiti, it makes it unlawful for any graffiti on private property for the property owner to allow it to remain there if that graffiti is visible from a public or private easement or from another property. So basically, if it's visible from outside the property, it's unlawful for a property owner to allow it to remain, and the property owner is responsible for removing it. So that's the land use regulation that applies to graffiti. How do we enforce that or deal with that? Before I move on, I think we have another hand, Victoria.
I was wondering what is deemed as graffiti. Like how can someone get in trouble if someone like tags up their fence? Like, or like what if they, what if they painted on their own fence? Like, I don't know how that's illegal.
Right. Yeah. So there is, to be honest with you, I couldn't recite the actual definition of graffiti to you, but there's a definition in the regulatory ordinance. And in those cases where, say, if someone did it to their own property, to them it's art, we likely wouldn't consider that graffiti. So it could be on a case-by-case basis. At the same time, if someone just wants to tell us that, no, it's not graffiti, I think it's art because they just don't want to deal with it, that's a different situation. And probably on those on a case-by-case basis, we would go to our county council lawyers to determine, is it a First Amendment issue, kind of free speech? Should it be considered art, or is it considered graffiti? Generally, we don't run into a lot of those issues, but it can happen, and it would just be a case by case basis. So,
But this is saying that like someone's like property could be like vandalized and then the property owner could get in trouble for not removing it.
Exactly. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about how that's enforced, and we'll talk more on that subject. And I'll go ahead and continue with the presentation, and then I'll stop for questions after the next slide again. Now, how do we enforce this code? So we're complaint based. We are not proactively looking for graffiti to enforce against property owners. But when we do get a report of a graffiti violation, we do have to investigate it and enforce it. And so what our officers do, they confirm a violation. They'll first work with the property owner. They will issue them a warning. This will detail the regulatory code that we talked about, and it will let them know what they need to do to resolve the violation. They're basically going to have to remove the graffiti, either physically remove it, or they can paint over it with a paint that's matching in color to the surface that the graffiti's on. And usually they'll get about a 10 to 14 day period to do this. If they don't do it, they're going to be subject to escalated enforcement actions, is what we would call it. Really, that would be a citation. First citation that gets issued would be $100. They start escalating from there until each citation is $1,000. This is what we absolutely want to avoid, especially we want to avoid this with any case. We want voluntary compliance, right? But especially with graffiti, like it was brought up, they're victims of vandalism. We do not want to be citing people who are victims of vandalism, but at the end of the day, it's their responsibility. And to talk a little bit more about what the regulatory code says, there is another option that the county can remove the graffiti itself or have a contractor remove it. We can do this two ways. One, we can do a public nuisance abatement process. That would require us getting a warrant from a judge to do it. Another way, we could enter into an agreement with the property owner to do it. Either way, though, the regulatory code requires that the owner is responsible for the cost. So the owner would have to pay that bill in that case. And so we try to avoid that, because that bill would also include staff time to coordinate everything. And it's just always cheaper for people to do it on their own. So we've been able to avoid that. When it comes to citations, we're largely able to avoid it too, and we will work with property owners and give them more time. But it kind of gets us between a rock and a hard place, because we don't want to cite property owners, but we want to deal with the graffiti quickly. And sometimes you have to choose one or the other. And what happens is we tend to be more on the lenient side with property owners as opposed to citing them for this. But that means it takes longer for the graffiti to be covered up. And so we want to do something about that. And so we'll get into what we want to do. We have a little bit of background left to share. I'll turn it over to Mike to talk about that in a minute, but I will stop right now and take questions. I see a hand up from Michelle.
Hi, I have two questions actually.
Mhm.
The first one is, what is the average cost for the planning development services to remove the graffiti? And you mentioned that if the owner wants to do it themselves, that they would need to use the same color as the surface. So if they're stucco or whatever type of surface it is, you're expecting that they have to color match, and on their own property, they can't just do a patch over.
Right. So, and that's within the regulatory code also. I don't have the exact language pasted in the PowerPoint, but that's what the regulatory code requires when it comes to painting over or covering, is that the color matches the surrounding surface. So we're not incredibly strict about that, but it is in the code. And then also you asked about the average cost. So we don't have numbers on average cost, because we've actually avoided doing any abatements on graffiti. We have the ability to, because we have an as needed contractor, but we've avoided doing any abatements on it. Our contract and the contract that we do anticipate going out for a new contract if we do this program, and it would be based on the square footage of graffiti. And so we know what the cost per square foot is, but we don't have data on what the average size of graffiti is. That's something that we would, if we do this program, one of the things we'd be able to collect that data and kind of adjust from there. But we don't have an average cost right now. Just estimates from what we think the average size of graffiti is.
Is that in addition to the citation amount?
So, well, of course, they would have to pay the citation amount, but
Okay,
with the new program, they wouldn't have to pay anything.
okay, thank
But
you.
yeah, so, okay, Laura, you have your hand up?
Yes, I had another question. First of all, what about the culverts that take the water, if we ever get any runoff water again? And there used to be a volunteer who would go and get buckets of paint from when they did take backs of garage stuff, and the county would mix the paints of the same type and similar colors together, and the person could just take 3 or 4 gallons of different colors of paint and just go, and used to just go around and roll out all the graffiti. And I guess that guy died, but I guess nobody's stepped up to do that again. But who does the culverts? You know?
The culverts is the Public Works. Yeah. Okay, and
And-
then,
A volunteer that would, if he had the paint, I mean, if I had the paint and the legs, I would go do graffiti in my neighborhood.
yeah, I mean, I think that would be a great thing for someone to do. I think, as part of our program, we would need permission from the property owner, and I think anybody volunteering, I think it's important to, talk to whoever owns the property and get their permission to do it. But I think that would be a great thing for volunteers to do.
Well, when you see SVL on a wall, that is not art. SVL is a gang.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So we want to get that type of graffiti covered up as quickly as possible. Okay, Victoria, you have a question?
Yeah, so I know earlier you mentioned that Spring Valley has like the largest amount of graffiti, I guess, in the county. And I was wondering if your office is working towards like adding murals, maybe not on like private property, but like on the right of way, like parks and like under the highways, like you were mentioning earlier, like other places where graffiti could appear.
Mhm.
Is there like funding, or is that already something that's like being like planned to like have murals? And then if you did have those murals, would they be representative of our culture and wildlife here?
I think it's a great idea personally. I will tell you, not that I'm aware of. We work for code compliance, and so our jurisdiction is private properties, and so it's not really a thought for us to try to put murals on private properties, with public funds. So it's not something that I see our division doing, but it could be something that Public Works or maybe parks, on public walls, park walls. I think that sounds like a good idea to me. And I think, like you said, it would be important if that happened, that it would be something representative of the culture. But for our division, I really can't speak to it because we wouldn't be putting murals on people's private property. It's just not really in the cards for us to do that right now.
Of course. And then is there any way to like change the verbiage so like people couldn't be, I guess, like penalized for somebody else tagging their house?
Right. I don't see a way to change it. For me, I think that the big thing, and we are going to talk about updating the regulatory code. And so we're going to talk about our plans. Mike will in more slides. Will we go as far as removing ultimate responsibility with the property owner? That's not feasible right now. But we'll talk about the changes that we are going to make, and then maybe if you have any more questions after that, after we're done with the presentation, we can talk about those.
Okay. I just know like growing up here, like, yes, like Laura was saying, there's like gangs. And so like, I think if we were to like address the systemic problems, right, there wouldn't be that tagging. And so like, obviously like a mural is not going to fix everything, but if we were to like go into the schools, or if we were to like actually like address these problems, I don't think it would be a problem. And then we wouldn't be like penalizing people whose houses just got tagged.
Right, I agree. I think it's great to address the source of the problem, right?
It
I think
would
that
seem
would be
like,
important too.
yeah, it would seem like there are a lot of people who would like to have the graffiti removed from their home if they could get some help with it, but making the party that owns the home responsible for that, it just seems to be excessive to me, and perhaps the county could, if the property owner called and said, hey, somebody tagged my house, can you get somebody to come out and paint it out because it's really awful and I don't want it here. But other than that, finding a homeowner who can't do that kind of stuff himself or herself is kind of abusive to the public.
So we agree that it's not a good thing to find the owners. So that's why we're doing this project. And so we have more of the presentation to go. I wanted to give you guys background and let you know how things have been done up to now and why we want to change it. So we'll go ahead. I think I'll take the 2 more questions. I see Jim, you had one.
Yeah, thanks so much. You know, I kind of concur on the issue with private property owners. In some cases, there could be a funding situation, especially with retirees on fixed income, and even more so with retirees who have physical limitations that would not allow them to remove graffiti. I think a great thing for our community to get involved with would be service groups. Maybe even folks from our planning group could volunteer to work to assist those private property owners that would like to have help. And I would imagine that Home Depot and other types of hardware folks,
Can I call a point of
paint
order?
folks would help.
The presentation is to talk about this issue, and I wish he could get through it and then answer questions if possible.
Yeah, we can do that.
I'm fine with-
would
I'm
be
fine with
better. Braulio, is that Braulio?
This is Chris Pierce.
Chris, okay.
I'll wait till my end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Braulio.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Brian.
because I think you guys are bringing up, we still want to finish talking about what we plan to do with this program. And I think some of the questions and comments may be best to wait towards the end once we're able to get through it. So right now I'll turn it over to Mike Pittman and he'll take us through the rest of the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to go over our graffiti data. So in code compliance, we did a 5-year study on graffiti cases in the unincorporated county. And we analyzed, on average, we had 77 cases per year for the entire unincorporated county. But the most prevalent community that had graffiti was your community planning group, Spring Valley. Over the 5 years, averaged 46 cases a year on private property. So I just wanted to confirm it was on private property, not on, this does not include public roads or culverts, that which would be handled by Public Works Department. So you can see on the screen, we have our most prevalent communities, besides your own community, Vista, El Cajon, Lakeside, Fallbrook, etc. So with this, I think there's a couple issues why there's some communities more prevalent graffiti. First of all, some communities have more graffiti than other communities, but the bigger issue is probably reporting, knowing where to report. I think your community is very well versed in how to submit a complaint to Public Works or code compliance. So I think that's one of the issues why there's a higher percentage of cases in your community itself. But at the end of the day, we don't want one community disproportionately affected, such as Spring Valley. So we're working to try to help all the communities in the unincorporated area to know how to report graffiti, but also remove it in a timely manner. Can you go to the next slide, please? All right, so this is our second last slide. This is going to be our proposed program to remove graffiti in private properties. So the first step would be to update the regulatory code. Currently, if we were to do an abatement, we must charge the property owner the cost of abatement. So our proposal is to change that regulatory codes where we may charge the property owner, but the county could also take over the cost instead of the private property owner. With that, so that'd be the first update, is to go to the board of supervisors and update that regulatory code. Step 2 would be to obtain a contractor that would actually do the removal of the graffiti. Before before going to someone's property to remove the graffiti, the contractor would get a consent form giving the county and the contractor the right to remove the graffiti and paint match it, or remove it if it's on a stucco or something that's not able to be painted. And then lastly, instead of the private property owner having to pay for the abatement, the county would pay for the removal of the graffiti and pay the contractor. So with that, that kind of is the gist of our proposal. And I know we'll probably have lots of questions. So we have Ken and I's contact information on the screen, but I'm happy to yield any questions you may have. Let's see, we got, what's Braulio? I'm sorry if
Oh, no, you're totally fine. Does the county record any of the gang activity, of gang tagging? And if so, what happens to it? And are they prosecuted at all to cover some of the costs of homeowners or county having to paint over that?
Good question. So currently we do, that'd be more of the criminal side. What the sheriffs would be the ones trying to track down the perpetrator or the person who committed the act or the crime of the graffiti. With our proposed program, we may try to use a program called Graffiti Tracker that the sheriff's department uses to track graffiti, tracks the actual graffiti image itself as well as the location. And so with that, we're hoping we use the graffiti tracker to actually coordinate with the local sheriff substations to help them with their criminal enforcement of graffiti and vandalism.
I see. I have a sort of a follow-up question, I guess, to that is,
Sure.
so when someone submits a complaint, what happens to that information from the person complaining? Like,
Yeah.
does that information, like we say, hey, look, we see a lot of this gang activity. It's currently all over, a certain street. Will the county sort of use that as for anything, or is it just sort of like it's going to go out there and cover it up and not do anything about it other than covering it up?
Currently, our process is we would just receive a complaint, we'd investigate if it's assuming it's on private property, which we have enforcement on, and we would just cover it up. So with this proposed program, having the contractor use the graffiti tracker and trying to thread with the county sheriff's departments and substations, that would allow the sheriff's to collect a lot more data. They may already be collecting some of this data, but the two departments don't currently correlate or connect on graffiti removal.
I got you. Okay. And then, so is the county doing anything to prevent the graffiti? I guess that's more really what it comes down to.
Yeah. So I think it comes down to the criminals or the people actually tagging or spraying fences or walls of private property. That's more the criminal side with the sheriff's department. So they'd be the ones that would be investigating actually the perpetrator. So
no, I guess what I'm asking is there anything the county's doing to prevent the kind of tag similar to what Victoria was leading on to? It's a cultural thing in Spring Valley, and it shows by the data that you have there's a lot of gang activity. So is there anything the county's doing to sort of prevent and curtail some of that particular issue that we have in Spring Valley?
Gotcha. I can't speak for the sheriffs, but they'd be the ones that would be trying to enforce on that or trying to help out to alleviate the gang activity out in your community. Unfortunately, our division for code compliance wouldn't have any enforcement on that, unfortunately.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. I see Tim, you have a question?
Yeah, what's the timeline for your program change?
So currently we're in the outreach phase right now. So we've connected, this is our 6th outreach meeting currently. So once we get the community feedback, we'll maybe changing the proposal a little bit. And then we'll be coming back to the public to do a couple more meetings to show our timeline for the proposal. Ideally, we're hoping to go to the board of supervisors at the end of this year or the beginning of next year to request the change in the regulatory code. That'd be the first step. And then from there, you'd have to piggyback getting a contractor. So if everything went perfect, hopefully beginning of next year, the mid next year.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem. I see Victoria.
Yes. So I think something that could possibly prevent some of the graffitiing is if the county puts sidewalks where there should be sidewalks, and if they put plants like in between those areas, and that would probably prevent a lot of it. And I think it'd make our communities a lot safer. And then I had a question. Seeing that the county is finding homeowners who are victim to their homes being graffitied, does the county also find homeowners who fly like flags or banners that could promote like violence or white supremacy?
We don't regulate like flags or anything like that. If it was a signage like a flag banner, certain type of sign that wasn't permitted, yes. But if it was for a flag that's on a flagpole, that's something we wanted to enforce on.
So someone could fly like a white supremacy flag or something, and that could be fine if they put it up. But if someone were to go to their house and like put spray paint, then they could get fined for the spray paint.
Yeah, it's kind of two different issues. One's like a more a First Amendment right for the flag, and second one is vandalism. So I think they're kind of separate issues.
I was just wondering if it's like on someone's private property, but thank you.
Okay. I got John, you have a question?
Hey, Michael, my question really does have nothing to do with graffiti. About a week and a half ago, I sent a question into code compliance about a dumpster. Are dumpsters allowed to be in front of private property outside the private property owner's property?
That'd be like a 20 or 40-yard dumpster for like
Yeah,
construction material.
the small one. What about a 5-yard dumpster? I don't know how big they are, but are they allowed to be out in front of their property on the public right of way?
If it was on the public right of way, unfortunately,
I never did receive an answer.
well, I apologize for that. I'd be happy to get your information, get you an update on that. If it's on so if it's in the public right of way, that'd be something we can't enforce on. If it was in someone's driving private property, that'd be something we could look into.
Yeah, the reason I bring it up is I approached a guy dumping property on the Caltrans property. He was taking it because it was in front of his dumpster and dumping it on Caltrans property. And I approached him about it, and I told him, you're not a very good citizen by doing that. He got very argumentative. I kind of had to walk away because, I mean, he was upset, and I didn't want to get into an altercation with him. But I asked the question, are dumpsters allowed to be in front of or on the right of way in front of his property? He's got a junkyard in a residential area.
Something I can get back to you on. We don't enforce on public right of way. We only do private property, so I don't know the codes.
Well,
for
I thought it would be a
county
code
roads.
compliance issue with the dumpster in front of his property.
If it was on the private parcel itself, we can enforce on, but if it's in the right of way, that'd be.
It's on the right of way.
Yeah, so that's not considered private property. It'd be either a public county maintained road, which would be public works, most likely.
Well, is it still allowed to have a dumpster outside?
I don't know the regulatory code for roads, so that's just man to look into.
John, we should have
The
got back to you
reason I
regardless.
bring it
but-
up, Michael, is because people were dumping stuff, other people were dumping stuff in front of his dumpster, and he got upset. He just dumped it over onto the Caltrans side.
I understand your frustration. I just don't have the information. It's the different department, so I'd be happy to get back to you if that's something you're
I
interested in.
appreciate that if you would, somebody would.
Sure.
I'll give you the address. I don't know the name of the guy, but I give you the address where it's happening also.
Yeah, I'm happy to take it down right now if you have it.
Pardon?
If you have the information, I can write it down right now.
I don't have it with me. I have to go. I had it and I think I canned it, but I can go get it again. I think it's 1055 Campo Road or something like that.
Sounds good. I can look into that.
I don't
for you.
remember exactly what it was.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So it doesn't look like we have any other questions. Am I wrong about that? And Victoria, do you see anybody else with their hand up?
No, I do not.
Thank you. Okay, Ken, Michael, I appreciate you guys' time tonight. And we're gonna keep watching and see as this program change flows through to the Board of Supervisors. And hopefully it'll happen soon enough that we can get those numbers down in Spring Valley and get us off that list of shames. Sound good?
Thanks, Tim, and thanks everybody. And we appreciate all the feedback, the comments and everything. I'll send you the PowerPoint, Tim, and if
That'd
you
be
can share
good.
it with the
Thank you.
group, I'd appreciate it. There's a link on here on this slide. You guys can sign up for updates for the program. So you'll get emails whenever the next step is coming through.
Excellent. Thank you very much. You guys have a good evening. All right.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Take care.
guys.
All right. Action item number 2. And I apologize for the pronunciation. Is it Murtaza?
It's Murtaza.
Murtaza. Thank you. Thank you. You're the program manager for Regional Sustainability, Land Use and Environmental Group. Board staff and the Land Use and Environmental Group, LUEG, will provide an overview on the new Office of Sustainability and Environmental Justice. LUEG staff will then share more information about the county's application to the Strategic Growth Council's Transformative Climate Communities, TCC, planning grant for Spring Valley. If you want to go ahead and start, I'll stop sharing my screen. I think
Tim,
I have.
Yes, Tim, if you don't mind, if any of the board staff wanted to make comments, I'll turn it over to them.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thank
Okay.
you, Melissa. Can you hear me?
Yeah, is Ariel, I have you set up as a co-host as well. I think you're going to be doing the presentation material.
Yes, I'll let the board staff make comments and then I'll share my screen.
Okay, good. Go ahead, guys. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Chair Snyder and planning group members. I'm David Flores, the interim director of policy for Vice Chair Supervisor Vargas, and I'm glad to be here tonight to share the work that county staff has been advancing in establishing a new dynamic between the county and the communities that we serve. For far too long, an inactive community engagement model for planning, land use, and development in our most impacted communities in the county has been absent. So last year, the Board of Supervisors introduced bold climate and sustainability goals, and the Vice Chair introduced the establishment of an Office of Environmental and Climate Justice that seeks to elevate community needs with priority on those most impacted communities. There were many first of their kind initiatives in the history of the County of San Diego, and together with the direction of the board to create a vision for climate and sustainability, our Land Use and Environment Group staff has done a tremendous job of advancing the new Office of Sustainability and Environmental Justice so that all of the county enterprise can work with the focus collaboratively with our communities and across jurisdictions. We are proud to have the opportunity to begin the work with Spring Valley as the first community under these new values, and we hope to set the example of how the county will work with all communities into the future. Staff has put together a great proposal, which we hope is funded at the state level. If the application is successful, we look forward to elevating what is best for community and to advance the collaboratives in Spring Valley. I would like to recognize Paola Martinez from District 4, and then we will turn it over to county staff. Thank you.
Yes, good evening, everybody. Paola Martinez Montes. I am she, hers, and I am a senior advisor and director of community engagement for Chair Nathan Fletcher, and we are excited to be here. We're excited with the direction that our county is going, and we are more excited to be able to have an opportunity to work with you all on this, this project, but future projects. And so, everything that David said, again, our chair, Nathan Fletcher, stands fully behind, and we look forward to continuing to work with you all very soon.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, Paula. I'm Murtaza Baksamusa, Program Manager for Regional Sustainability at the Land Use and Environment Group. And with me are Tyler Farmer and Ariel Hamburger from the Planning and Development Services Department. Ariel is going to share the screen. I have a two-part presentation today. First is the Office of Sustainability and Environmental Justice that David mentioned, that is in the process of being established by our Land Use and Environment Group. And the second part of the presentation is Transformative Climate Communities grant application with the state's Strategic Growth Council. Next. So what is environmental justice? We established this office on the founding principle that we want to make sure that there's fair treatment and meaningful involvement when it comes to decisions government makes that impact communities in terms of the air they breathe, water they drink, and natural resources that surround them. These two pillars of fair treatment and meaningful involvement are foundational to environmental justice. So that is what we hope to achieve with this office, the same degree of protection from environmental and health hazards as any other community, and equal access to decision-making process to have a healthy environment in which to live, learn, and work. Next. In the end, our goal is health and well-being of all our communities, particularly those that have been impacted by pollution the most, as well as climate impacts. Next. Last summer, the board voted to approve Vice Chair Vargas's recommendation to direct the establishment of the Office of Environmental and Climate Justice, or OECJ, as it was then called, within our group. These were the 4 areas that the board at that time voted for us to focus on, which includes the regional as well as an unincorporated area focus. Next, in terms of the unincorporated area, we're looking not just at the 4 communities, but also to look at the criteria surrounding environmental justice that forms some of the evaluation of what is environmental justice. In this map, there are 4 EJ communities that were identified in the county's general plan. They include 17 census tracts in the unincorporated areas. Next, we sought to frame the scope, mission, and overall roles and responsibilities of this office based on the lived experiences, as well as community-based organizations that are familiar with those experiences so that we can best serve these communities. Next, there are a few resounding points that communities are sharing with us, and we're paying attention. We want to establish this office based upon what the community's self-identified needs are. Here are some of the feedback we are receiving. Next, the overall theme that is emerging is that this new office will build coalitions and convene groups across the region to support EJ communities, for them to self-organize and speak for themselves no matter what the issue, whether it's healthy food access, recreational amenities, air pollution, urban heat island effect, housing, equity, open space, toxic hotspots, internet connectivity, or transportation. Many times, these issues are treated in silos, and the intent of this office is to have that kind of an ombudsman for particularly impacted communities. We heard from stakeholders that historically, public and private decisions over these issues disproportionately impact Black, Indigenous, and people of color because they have not been included in the decision-making process. With this, I want to mention that there were 3 key elements that emerged from the roadmap that we went to the board. First was a regional working group. So that was across all county departments, but also regional agencies, including Air Pollution Control District and multi-jurisdictional partners. So that when communities speak to us, we can actually go and try to address who it is in the decision-making process that can solve those issues. The second is steering committees for the 4 EJ communities that we identify in the general plan, in the unincorporated areas, if the communities want them. So we would be creating these steering committees per EJ community. And the third that emerged, especially for the first year of this new office, was to pursue state and funding opportunities in order to invest in planning efforts around environmental justice issues in these communities. So with that, I want to turn to the second part of my presentation, the transformative climate communities, which a grant opportunity that came up from the state of California. It is, I want to emphasize that if we are awarded, there will be ample opportunity for this group. The community planning group is a significant participant in this to give input in the development of the planning projects that are identified. We will have a between 3 to 6 month period of negotiation with the state prior to the grant agreement. We would be working closely with the CPG and other partners in order to fund the implementation of the identified planning activities. This particular grant is only a planning grant, so there is a considerable amount of opening here for potential projects that could be funded in the future. Earlier this year, when the board directed county staff in the land use and environment group to prepare an application for this transformative climate communities grant, it was a difficult task because this grant is not typically open to unincorporated areas. It is a very urban focused grant, and most of the criteria did not allow for participation of unincorporated areas. So therefore, there was a rulemaking process that changed. This is the first time that they allowed unincorporated communities to apply. The objective of this grant is to empower these communities most impacted by pollution to choose their own goals, strategies, and projects to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Next. I think we've seen the zoomed out map. We zoomed it a little bit on Spring Valley. We generally focus in on the pink area, which is the communities identified in this EJ map. Now, as I mentioned, SGC then, which is the Strategic Growth Council, with the help of a technical advisor that for the first time, once again, the state funded advisor that walked us through the process, allowed for the self-identification of disadvantaged communities in the census tracts in the Spring Valley. So we have verified our eligibility for the selection of the state. However, as David mentioned, it's still a competitive process. Next. Using some of the mapping tools, including our own, as well as the states, we were, with the aid of the technical systems provided by the state. This is an illustration of the county's, our own EJ story map. The census tracts in the community of Spring Valley have an average of 90% park deficit, which means 10% only coverage, and 15% tree canopy, showing the lack of dedicated parklands and very low levels of native vegetation land cover. So this is the case we made to the state. Next, the Transformative Climate Communities, or TCC planning grant, consists of cohesive group of census tracts. So they had to be connected in terms of both eligible and competitive, that include in criteria that include geographic, public health, environmental hazard, socioeconomic factors such as income, asthma rates, and tree cover. The county applied for $300,000 planning grants to address 3 program objectives with the direction of the Board of Supervisors on June 29th. These factors include significant reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, improving public health and environmental benefits, and expanding economic opportunity and shared prosperity. We met with several community organizations for potential projects that include community outreach and engagement, community-based kitchen, farm to table, bike safety assessments, the study of feasibility of health facilities, coordination with local businesses, and other programs. If the grant is awarded in October, there will be a 3 to 6 month post-award consultation process with the state SGC. During this timeline, we will be convening all stakeholders that are interested in EJ issues in Spring Valley to get their input on the partners and projects that go into the final grant agreement. As we're setting up this office OSEJ, we want to be able to partner with the communities and to help build this planning exercise. And we'll be here for a very long time. So that's our goal, and I welcome any questions.
You're muted, Tim.
Laura, go ahead.
Thank you, Tim. How do you juxtapose the desire to have sustainability and environmental justice when the county developers services department continually approves every single development project in Spring Valley, regardless of how poorly they construct the streets and don't want to provide any sidewalks? How do we manage that, and do you people talk to each other?
Thank you. I appreciate that comment. This is what we want to hear. We want to have this particular Office of Sustainability and Environmental Justice. It's unique in many ways, not just because it's the first time that the the county has actually paid attention system-wide across the enterprise, across all departments towards concerns of the community on environmental justice, many of which are rooted in a racialized history, a history of injustice, and underserving certain neighborhoods and communities. The intent of this office is to be the advocate, to be the ombudsman across all departments, for all 43 departments, and to hear your voices and to be able to build those bridges with the services we provide, not just with the county, but across the region.
You really do talk pretty, and I really appreciate that. But what have you devised, or how is your cooperation with the county developers services to assist us in not having more blight built into the community, which is what the developer services at the PDS do? You coordinate with each other to say, wait a minute, no, that's a blighted area. You really shouldn't be doing that there. Because the only people that seem to have any power are the people who developers pay.
We hear you. I hear you. And I think that is the intent, is to have a voice so that communities are represented in the budget making process, in the decision making process, planning and approval.
I don't think there's anybody that's been on this planning group for more than 5 years that hasn't tried to give a lot of input to the county about development in our community, but we're never listened to. Let's not play games. Sorry, sir, I'm done.
Jim, you're muted.
Victoria, if you would.
Scott, you can go first.
I guess kind of more succinctly, kind of to a little bit to Laura's point though, is there a, particularly with project development, is there a particular step, or we've had the PDS folks come in here and give us a brief on the process. Is there any discussion about how your group, any specific steps in any of the processes within PDS that your group would be, have an opportunity to be, do some sort of review and kind of provide, whether it's a report to the county or just some feedback to the Board of Supervisors? Has there been any discussion of like what that codified process looks like for your team? Thank you.
So this particular grant application is a planning grant. It's intended to help the community organize those projects that can then go through the project approval and funding process in the future. So therefore, this is the planning stage. In terms of the planning stage itself, as we are hopefully get granted in October, we will convene this group and any other group that is interested in Spring Valley EJ issues to allow us to kind of put together what that planning process looks like.
Okay. I might have some follow-up questions, but I'm chewing on that for now.
Yes, I think that's important here in distinction is that the departments and the plans that you all have been working on, that is a separate track. We're trying to help with the planning process itself here in terms of getting funding so that the community has a voice in advocating for those projects to get funded and built.
Okay, Scott, I'm going to go ahead with Victoria.
Thank you. So I know you said this grant is specifically for planning and to help be the advocates for our community. But like we in Spring Valley, we already know what the injustices are. Like we've lived them our entire lives, and we're in the middle of a climate emergency. I wish there was like a way we could just like expedite this like planning process, because you already had a slide that listed like 10 injustices that we face here. I just wish we could just like get to work. Is there any way to like expedite that process and like use some of the grant money to like actually take action?
Thank you, Victor. We don't have to wait for that grant money. I will in this fall, as we are standing up this office, we will have EJ contacts with our this office, and that will, if this particular community, Spring Valley, wants a steering committee, that will be a good avenue for us to get to work. So yes, we don't have to wait for any grant for this community to organize.
Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. David?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that comment, Victoria, and for the other comments. You know, and I think that's what's the powerful thing about this new office is that I think for the first time, it's creating a space where it's going to have the community be able to raise its voice and be taken seriously. And no, it's not a game. You know, I think, and that's why the vice chair introduced this, creating this new office, because for far too long, communities that have not been taken or where development impact has not really been sensitive or sensitized has overtaken communities. And this is I think this is the powerful space that this office is creating. So whether the grant happens or not, the office will will be stood up. The communities, those 4 communities that were identified, are going to be the priorities for this office. And whether it's advancing, right, some of those rules that were discussed earlier in today's meeting about, you know, how can we work with communities like this that have the highest graffiti and be taken maybe a little bit different perspective, right, to address the issues. These are the kinds of things that this office will really elevate and work across the department. And so I just wanted to make that comment because it can't come soon enough for the vice chair and for the supervisors that voted for the office. But it's getting its legs, and it'll do great work.
Thank you, David. I have a quick question. Does this work kind of like CEQA as far as planning and development services or any other county operation that wants to develop in Spring Valley, although CEQA is a state program? Will they have to come to this new office and pretty much get either approval or guidance before they continue on with any kind of planning for any development or related development work in Spring Valley? Is that going to be the case?
Tim, the short answer is not at this time. This office does not have a regulatory authority. So the point of this office is to be that ombudsman that can then connect to planning and air resources, air pollution district, and any other regulatory agency. So that is the intent.
Okay. Well, you have my permission to join the regulatory circuit as well, because we do need the backup. But thank you anyway. I appreciate that. Is there any other questions from anybody in the group? This is obviously a fairly complex situation, something that I want to follow up with this new office, particularly going into the fall, and see if we can get any updates or receive any updates as steps are taken. I much appreciate that. Is there anybody from the public that has any questions? I didn't see anybody. Again, complex question, and I'm hoping that we get more opportunities to help you fine tune and give you comments and get comments as this goes along. Thanks a lot for your time, the whole group of you. Great.
Thank you, Tim, for having us here.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
All right, we're going to go on to action item number 3. APN 584-410-3500. We're probably all familiar with this one. This is 3450 Hamishal Boulevard, Iron Auto Sales and Collision. They have a B special area regulation exemption request for signage. Proponent is Mustafa Alani and presenter is Bob Ebley. Bob, you want to go ahead and share your screen? I'll stop sharing mine.
Yes. You gotta turn me,
Yeah, I think I did already, but let me just make sure about that. No, I did not. You are now a co-host.
you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay. Why didn't it?
And this is for the material that you sent out to the group today.
Yes.
Now, I have that material if you want me to go ahead and share it.
Well, let's see why it's not popping up. No, you can't see it?
No, not yet.
Go ahead and pop it up on yours. Then.
Okay. Everybody see that?
Hey, there it is.
There it is. Let me see if I can shrink that down a little bit. There you go. Okay, Bob, just tell me to scroll up or down if you want me to go to a certain place.
Okay, starting on the left, are pictures from last January and February. On the right are current in August. You'll see that he has cleaned up the side street of, what is it called, Percosa?
Yeah.
I'm not pronouncing it correctly. And then here you see his office. He did a little remodeling, put in some new windows on the right. Scroll down a little bit more. And now we get to the new signs. He remember in our two meetings in last meeting in January, first meeting in February, that we spoke many times about the Spring Valley Community Design Guidelines. And I don't think he took one look at those guidelines, because if you look at the signs here on the right, they're so far off the reservation as far as meeting our guidelines. So scrolling down some more. So right here, he's got two buildings on fronting Hammershaw Boulevard, one at 21 feet frontage and one at 40. So he gets 61 square feet of signage allowed, and he has put up 192 square foot as installed. Scroll down a page.
You want
No,
sign
it's
area?
fine.
Okay.
Right here in our guidelines, it says, the frontage is defined as the length of the buildings, plural, facing the street or the main thoroughfare. You made it too small. I can't read it.
Was afraid of that. There you go.
Yeah, scrolling down some more. So most of us are familiar with our guidelines. I've asked him to consider redoing them since Jim had a stab at it and Laura has put in her recommendations. I just think we should finalize our guidelines, the verbiage. You can scroll down some more. Okay, this is the B waiver. Scrolling down some more. The B waiver that was given to us by the county. And the second page gives Mr. Alani's information, and 4 signs as built is what he's asking for us to approve. And scroll down some.
Sure. Is he here this evening, by the way, Bob?
I haven't seen him.
I haven't seen him either.
Okay, this is what he submitted with the fee waiver process, the signage, the dimensions. Scrolling down a little bit, it states the 192 square feet here at the bottom. And then you can see the county stamp. So the county did see it. My understanding from Devin at the county is that just because they stamp it doesn't mean that they looked at it. She said unless it's a zoning gets involved, they don't look at it, they send it out to the planning group and we're the good guys or bad guys, whatever the case may be.
Can I make a motion to reject this as presented?
Wait, it's coming.
Really?
Okay, this is his larger building. Again, should be 40 square feet maximum. He's got over 90 there. Scrolling some more. This is the sales office on the corner. And there's my motion to reject the B waiver as presented due to the proponent's blatant disregard for the Spring Valley design guidelines.
I second that.
Okay.
Amen, Bob.
Has anybody in the group physically been by here to notice these signs? Because I just want to tell you that other than the size of it, the signs themselves, I don't think are permanent signs. When they say aluminum wall signs over here, they're essentially saying that the panels are aluminum, and with a polyurethane core, but the sign itself looks to be of banner material. And on top of every other concern we have, this is superfluous. I understand that. These signs aren't going to last. They're going to last as long as those sidewalk banners last, and we know how long they last. So he's not really even put up any kind of permanent signage. He just slapped up some signs. And also the second point is this site does not have a site plan. And so we can always go back and say, no, you don't have a site plan. I think Bob's verbiage down here is probably just as appropriate as saying that. Matter of fact, it's probably more so. So I think I agree with the way the motion is written, and we've got a second. Is there any further comments before we vote on this?
Could we call the question? Does anybody have a problem with just calling the question? I don't want to cut off debate, but I would call the question if nobody else had anything.
I don't see any hands raised. Victoria, do you see any hands raised for comments?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Tiffany, why don't you go ahead and take the vote?
Okay, can is it Bob for the motion and who's the second?
Yes, Bob with Chris doing a second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the motion is to reject the B waiver as presented due to the proponent disregard for our design review guidelines. I vote yes. Laura?
Yes.
Jesse?
Yes. I can't hear.
Yeah, Tiffany, you can get your volume up a little bit, please.
Got it maxed out. It might just be my computer. Chris Pierce?
Okay.
Chris Pierce, yes.
Thank you. John? John?
John Eugenio, your vote?
Yep, I was muted. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Harris?
Yeah, yes.
All right, Scott Schaefer?
Yes.
Rod?
Yes.
Chris Pearson?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Victoria?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes, thank you, Bob.
Bob?
Yes.
And Tim?
Yes.
All right, the motion carries 14 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions, 1 absent.
Thank you very much for that, Bob. We'll see how that develops. Okay, item number 4, a continuation of teleconferencing meeting option pursuant to the government code. So this again is to go out another month on the virtual meeting. Is there any motion on that?
I'll make a motion to continue.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay, who was the second?
Bob?
Bob. So Laura made the motion to continue, Bob second. Tiffany, why don't we go ahead and do a vote on that as well?
All right, I vote yes. Laura?
Yes.
Jesse?
Yes.
Chris Pierce?
Yes.
John?
John, your vote?
Yep, yes, I was muted again. Yes.
Sorry. Yes, thank you.
Scott Harris?
No.
Scott Schaefer?
Yes.
Rod?
Yes.
Chris Pearson?
No.
Jim?
No.
Victoria?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
And Tim?
Yes. All right. That's pretty much the action items. Victoria, Tiffany, let me know when you're ready. I'm going to stop sharing. And I think I have you set up to share for the minutes.
Yeah, I'll let just a sec.
No problem. Thank you. By the way, has anybody gone out and seen the meetings on YouTube?
Yes.
Okay, good.
All right, everyone see the minutes?
Move to approve.
Is Bob Ebley?
Second.
Okay, and is that Scott Schaefer?
Yep.
Thank you. So Bob moved to approve, Scott seconded. Tiffany, if you go ahead and take the vote, please.
Okay, I vote yes. Laura,
Yes.
Jesse,
Yes.
Chris Pierce,
Yes.
John.
Yes.
All right, Scott Harris,
Yes.
Scott Schaefer,
Yes.
Rod,
Yes.
Chris Pearson,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Victoria,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
and Tim.
Yes,
All right, carries 14 in favor, none opposed.
thank you. All right, so we're going to go to group business. Is there any announcements? Victoria, let me know if there's anybody who wants to make an announcement. Tiffany has her hand up. I'm sorry, Tiffany, go ahead.
No, no worries. Just a quick announcement. I'm gonna release these minutes, probably by tomorrow at the latest. Please get any edits or corrections to me ASAP. My availability is questionable the rest of the month. But I will still edit and send out the draft for prior to the next meeting. But beyond that, Jesse will be taking over. Also just wanted to point out, because I live right up Quarry, that the county has put up, I don't know what you call them, but like the traffic, like the things that read stuff. I don't know what the word is. And it has the community meeting for the Quarry Road project on there. So there's like light up panels that have it right here at Quarry. So that was pretty cool to see. So if you all get curious, come down Quarry and you can see those signs.
Thank you. Great, thanks, Tiff. All right, anybody else for announcements?
How many people in the planning group received letters about the Quarry Road?
This is Jim Costello. I received one. I think they sent it out to everybody that replied to the questionnaire.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't just it wasn't a community near the Quarry Road area.
I think it was both, because I got two. I got one addressed to my homeowner name and then one addressed to a survey respondent.
Thank you. Okay, good. And I'll detail that a little more during my chair report. So any other announcements?
This is Jesse real quick. I'm not sure if this goes in announcements or reports, but I did want to talk about what the member from the public brought up about St. George and that area next to the shopping center.
Yeah, Jesse, I did talk to the manager of the store, and I'll talk about that in my reports.
Okay, great. Thank you. Look forward to it.
Thank you. All right. Without any further announcements, I'll go to the chair reports. First of all, you 7 even seated group members, thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys have all filled out your candidate paperwork, and I can actually, there's a method to track to see if anybody else makes it, an 8th or 9th candidate or beyond that. But there's only a few more days to go on this. What date did I say? Was that the 12th?
12th of August.
Yeah, so that's coming pretty quick here. So I'll keep watching. After that, then if it's just the 7, we know how this rolls. The ROV will just bless everybody and that'll take care of it. But thank you again for all doing your paperwork so quickly. Just as a side note, Valley d'Oro, which it probably has as many seats open as we do, since I think they have a 15-seat group. I've only seen 2 people from Valley d'Oro do their paperwork as of today. So you guys hustled, and thanks again for doing that. Jesse's going to cover for Tiffany as secretary while she's out. And thank you for doing that, Jesse. You're pretty much prepared to take care of that with the forms and other instructions?
Yes, sir. Ready to go.
Thank you. Excellent. St. George Street, the manager of the Smart and Final there called me. They've been having a problem with large commercial vehicles that probably moved there from Campo Road. No, I'm kidding. But who are parking along the north edge of St. George Street. I don't know if it's a business or whose trucks they are. They look pretty uniform. I was over there. So I'm going to talk to John about the resources that finally came about with getting Campo Road cleaned up with the overnight parking. and see if we can do the same thing for St. George Street. Now, the other half of the question is homeless population. I don't know, because I haven't been by there in the evening. Jesse, maybe you can fill me in on that. Is there homeless camping along St. George Street?
Yes, there used to be a lot worse, but the county, I think, has done a pretty good job lately in not letting them stay there for more than a week. And they're pretty responsive to notifications about that. But early in when you start talking about this, you joked about Campo Road, and you're actually spot on. This group's been tracking sort of the parking issue, like you said, from Campo Road all the way down to this development. And there were a lot of trucks that were coming over from Campo Road. And at one point, this was sent over to Traffic Advisory Committee to review this entire area. That's the entrance and the exit from the shopping center and the restaurant area on the other side of the street, of course. So there's traffic going in and out. There's a lot of accidents. We've been trying to get numbers from the county as far as mortalities, because there are several a year on that strip directly in front of the Smart and Final. So again, I'm glad that the member from the public came, but definitely this area really needs to be looked at as far as being able to put a light to be able to maybe get onto St. George, having some sort of visible walkways for the pedestrians from the neighborhood to the shopping center. There's a lot that really needs to be fixed here. So I appreciate your leadership on this, Tim.
Great, thank you. I don't want to necessarily turn this into a discussion item, but John, you had your hand up?
Yes, I did. I think we worked, just for your information, we worked with the traffic advisory. I think Jim Cousteau was heavily involved in it, getting those signs installed.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is put this on as an action item.
Okay.
And then have you send a letter to the county traffic engineers requesting some sort of no parking ordinance for heavy vehicles along the same lines as what we put in. I think it's no parking for any vehicles between certain hours.
That's correct, between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m.
Well, sorry, go ahead. Sorry to cut.
So anyhow, I mean, we don't need to do the verbiage right now, but we need to have a discussion as an action item, and then have you as chair, Tim, send a letter to the traffic engineering so that they can then address the question.
Correct.
Not a problem.
Jim, this is Jesse real quick. If I recall correctly, Jim, I think someone from the county did come. I don't remember if it was a beer or not, but their weight capacity already exceeds the regulations. So like those trailers aren't supposed to be on those roads just on the weight that they how heavy they are.
Oh, I probably agree with that.
Right. And so the problem has been enforcement because CHP will come and ticket, but they move very frequently. So the 72-hour rule doesn't apply. They're there overnight or they're during the day. So it's kind of hard to I guess kick them out. But yeah, they're not supposed to be on that road because of the weight is what I think.
Yeah. Well, I'll add it to the next agenda as an action item so that we can kind of hash out all the there's probably no pros, there's probably all cons to them using that road. But that way we'll have good material for a body of a letter. All right. So
thank you, Jim.
Let's see. The only other thing is the Quarry Road meeting. There is going to be a meeting Quarry Road. I don't have the date at the top of my head. It's like next week, maybe Monday or Tuesday, but it's at the community center, and I'm pretty sure I sent it out to all of you. It was
August 17th.
Thank you. It was from Jim Bowles. Jim was going to be here tonight just to kind of make a public comment about it, but he wasn't feeling well. So I told him I'd do it for him. This is definitely something that I'm going to attend, and I encourage anybody else to show up there as well and put your 2 cents worth in regarding keeping this project moving along. So I appreciate that. Laura, you still have your hand up. Was that just because you have a hand up?
No, I put it back up, but did everybody notice in the chat that as we were talking a little while ago, Angelica Wallace has applied as a candidate. She did that today.
Okay.
I saw that.
Okay, so that'll take it up to 8. So you guys will become famous because you're going to end up on the ballot this fall.
Well, I've actually done that 3 times.
What seat is
okay.
she applying for?
Yeah, I was gonna say which seat number. Oh, she didn't.
Well,
say.
I guess they applied for the planning group, not a seat per
Yeah,
se.
but I think they changed it, so now you have to apply for a specific seat number.
No,
Got
that's
it.
one. Yeah, no, that was one of the things that they kind of didn't really give good guidance on when you were signing up. So like the way it works, like, cause I dug into the book that they give you. The way it works for planning groups is just whoever, like you don't like, even though they kind of told you to run for your seat number when you're filling out your application,
Right.
they don't do that. They're just going to take total like you just sign in as a candidate, and then they're just going to take the vote numbers, and then they assign seats based on vote numbers.
Gotcha.
Wait a minute. I don't think if you don't have an opposition, you're not put on the ballot, so you don't have a number of votes that they can count.
So
Well-
the candidate form, it says pick 7. So if there's 8, we're going to be on the list, and it's the top 7 vote getters are going to
Oh,
be
okay.
placed in the
All right.
seats.
Yeah,
That's correct.
But they won't change everybody else's seat, will they? They don't. They
No.
voted for that.
No.
They could.
Yeah, it could.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
it'll just be a different even seat number. Then like the odds are going to stay the same, and then just yeah. So like for example, I'm seat 8. So if I lose out, like say I get the least amount of votes, whoever, so 8 is like probably what's that, the 4th? That's the 4th seat of the evens, right? So whoever gets the 4th most votes will probably fall into seat 8.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So tell your neighbors and your friends and yourselves to vote for whoever you feel is appropriate.
Somebody really wants this seat, they can have it.
There you go.
Laura, put all that money, Laura.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask for my money back.
Yeah, Ed, you're gonna wish you got your $600 statement now.
Yeah, really.
It's certainly not gonna ever happen.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so let's go on to CSA 128. Any meetings lately?
No,
Nope.
well,
Are they just quiet for the summer?
yeah, July got canceled, August, we barely had a quorum, and my memory is gone.
Robusto Park, the community garden is open. If you signed up for a garden plot, you can start gardening already. I think there are still plots available. So if anyone wants to sign up, you can email Sean Hill at probably San Diego County, or I can send you his email with the application and the terms of use form. And then on Saturday, we had the back to school jam with like Live Well. There was Bambulo, which is like a band. The rec center, teen center, the skate park was there. It was just like a whole thing. The kids looked really happy. A bunch of them got school supplies. So that was really dope. And then we started like a gardening installation and art build that day to kind of outreach for the composting program that we're starting. And then tomorrow we're going to be hosting like a rock painting outside of Kempton and STEAM Academy after like they get out of school, because tomorrow's their first day of school, to kind of add to our rock garden, and then giving them fruit. And then the food waste is going to go into a tub, and just kind of explaining like how composting is in like a really tangible way. It's probably gonna be 90 degrees, so they'll like the watermelon and grapes, but also kind of just teaching them about composting. So that's happening tomorrow.
Thank you.
And then I have a few things from the meeting. The garden plots, there's 20 of them total. I think Mount Miguel has 4 of them and 3 people have currently signed up for the others. There's 15 large plots and 5 small. Sorry about that. Large plots are going to be $35 annual fee just to cover the water, and the small plots will be $20. I also messaged you, Tim, about the Lamar Park parking lot expansion is looking to also have a stormwater capture system. So
Correct.
we will get some presentation on that from Department of Public Works soon.
Yeah, I'll be talking to them.
Got it. The PLDL number 2 shade structures for parks, Goodland Acres, Eucalyptus, and Lamar are starting the bidding process. We'll start this fall. And so we should hopefully get some shade structures in there soon. And that about covers it.
Oh, and I wanted to add that Sweetwater Place Park on Sweetwater Springs, the grass is looking a lot better there. Has anybody else noticed that?
Yes, I noticed it. I drove by there and it's greener, and they just aerated it.
Good, perfect. Okay, yeah. So I thought it looked much improved over at the beginning of the summer. All right, thanks, Jim. Jesse?
Yes, real quickly, just wanted to share, we're getting some traction with the county and code compliance and working through some cases. Going to streamline it, get a spreadsheet back and hopefully on a Google Drive so we can all view it and track how things are going. So if you have any code violations or questions, complaints, send them my way. We'll add them to the list. Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse. TAC, Traffic Advisory Council.
Nothing new to report.
Okay. And highway cleanup, John.
Yeah, I published to all the members the schedule for a monthly schedule for till the end of December. So if you want to participate, just let me know. I'll get you the gear. Some of you have the gear already.
And they have to also go through some online training, right?
That's correct.
Thank you. All right. I don't have any new assignments. Things have been kind of slow. The spider is fat and happy in our post office box. And so I'll keep watching as stuff comes through and then get it out to you guys. Next meeting is August 23rd this month. Scott, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I had just one kind of, by the way, I talked with Jamela from Nathan Fletcher's office just about kind of what some of the feedback we were hearing when we had the MTS brief about lack of shading for the bus stops. So what I was wondering for the next meeting, could maybe we put together just like a list of, I don't know, maybe just start with top 10 or, pretty minimal just of some stops that we know have been problematic, and we can get that off. She gave us a point of contact with MTS, but put her and the supervisor's office on that correspondence to MTS and say, hey, here's areas that we've kind of noticed.
Right. And this is along the line of like a capital improvements project list for MTS specifically.
I mean, this is essentially just identifying, like the way I kind of view this.
Sure.
Is forget like the resourcing, the how piece. This is just getting a codified document of like, hey, here's the stops where the requirement exists. Like we know these stops do not have sufficient shading, and then whether that falls in a capital improvement, for all we know, MTS gets some other project, other venue that they can fund things through. But I think kind of from just, I don't know, the way I think, just at least in our meeting, we know these are the stops that are the priority ones, I think would be helpful. I don't know, just my thoughts.
No, that's a great idea. And I think we need to put a list together. We've talked about certain stops here and there and everywhere, but actually to write it down, to detail it, and then to get it to somebody that hopefully will say, okay, we got some funding, let's do something. So in a sense, it's like a CIP list that we give to Public Works, but it's essentially going to MTS eventually. Yeah. Okay. Hey, by the way, when is District 1 going to have an open house so that people of Spring Valley can go say, hey?
That's a good question. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
I-
I, know.
now-
I haven't gotten a follow-up. Yeah.
Now, I understand that Nathan Fletcher did attend the Valley de Oro Community Planning Group meeting virtually and did a presentation. So if it has to come to that, maybe if you can do a reach out and if they're willing to at least do that, so it doesn't take a lot of his time to set up and their time to set up a community center type of meeting. But as a possibility, if you would.
Yeah, you know, I can reach out. Yeah, I kind of haven't. I have not followed up on that one, so I can do that.
Okay, for the good of the cause, is there any other Victoria? You have your hand up.
Yes, I had a question for Jim. I raised my hand when he was giving his report, but I think it got lost.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. But I was wondering what the process would be to get, like, I remember someone came to our meeting a few months ago asking to make it a little safer around Bancroft Elementary. And so like the principal at Kempton said that she wants those like cone things, it like near the like double yellows, because like parents are like whipping their cars around, they're going like really fast, and she's going to try to like assemble, she's new to Kempton, but she wants to like assemble a safety patrol, but she also wants those cones. Where do I do that?
Well, I had a conversation today with Travis Garrow, who's the public information officer for the CHP at their Oklahoma office, and he is working to get somebody to come to this meeting to talk about traffic issues as it relates to the schools. So I'm waiting.
Yeah, and I would agree that's probably the best way to approach it. I don't know that traffic engineering is going to do anything about, you're talking about these permanent little plastic vertical
Delineators.
delineators.
Little stick things.
Yeah, they have some of those on Hammershot Boulevard by McDonald's, I believe. So that's always a possibility, and that probably ought to come out of a discussion with the CHP, and then we could make a request to county traffic to consider installing those, both at Bancroft, maybe, and at Kempton. And this could be something that maybe needs to be looked at more carefully at a lot of the elementary schools, because I think the problem is pretty systemic.
I believe so. Okay, so I'll wait to hear back from CHP, but talking with him, he himself is involved with, I think it's called the START program with the high schools, where he goes out, and it seems like every time we have a meeting, he's going to be attending some high school somewhere, but he's going to assign somebody to get back to me and put together a presentation and a discussion primarily about the traffic around the elementary schools at least. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bob?
How are we in putting together changes for our signage?
I'm going to put that on as an action item in 2 weeks.
Okay,
I already made a comment to do that, and to bring up the text that Jim did, and we can take a look at it prior. I'm going to send it out like a week ahead of time. Everybody should have that, but I'll just reemphasize it by resending it out. And then we can kind of thrash through it. The county has it. It's the black hole. You know how that goes. You know, I gave it to PDS and it went somewhere. So now if we come back as an action item and say, okay, we've 13-2 or whatever to get this changed, and then put it at them again, that maybe this time they'll follow through all the way. But
do they have a special department on community guidelines?
They've got somebody that does that. That's their bread and butter, is to work on keeping the guidelines on the straight and narrow. Not necessarily to update them wholesale. We know how long that's been, but it's been like 20 or more years. But yeah, okay. I don't even 30 years. Good God. Okay, I appreciate that. So I'll have it on an action item and I'll send it out to everybody just to reiterate again, this is what was proposed. Let's take a look at it, do whatever we have to do to clean it up a little bit if we care to, or if it needs it, and then let's let's move it on to the county and get a blessing. Sound good?
Good.
Good.
All right, thank you. Anything else, gang? Looks like we're pretty much done. So I'm going to adjourn the meeting here at 8:42 p.m.